Circuit.com and the director of the Austin Comedy Film Festival. Austin Comedy Film Festival Fall 2022 is coming up in just a few short weeks in early November, and we are screening all types of films and TV pilots and music videos, as well as featuring the work of our screenwriters and screenplays. We're joined by John Rischmiller today, who has a great screenplay that he sent to us. Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. And I got to admit, your writing, if we were to sit here and talk about you, your writing has been around for a long time at our festival, since 2018. And today we're talking about North to the Future, which is a romantic comedy feature screenplay and has been nominated for the Best Romantic Comedy Feature Screenplay Award. A mouthful, but good job.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to give away the story. Please put the synopsis in your own words of this one.
Well, I'd like to do a synopsis, kind of like how I had the idea for the film. I grew up really enjoying boy meets girl movies. So those are my favorite ones to watch. And a lot of old movies I could name that were my favorites. But another thing I'm kind of drawn to as well is aviation. I grew up with a dad who was a pilot, and he bought and sold airplanes like trading baseball cards. And he would take me up on weekends, and we would do all sorts of things in the sky that people would be afraid of, but I was never afraid. And there were small planes. But anyway, I had this idea that one time my dad told me, when the early 1940s, when he was probably 20 years old, him and his brother had an airplane, and they would grow up in southern Minnesota, and they would like take girls up in airplanes, and their parents didn't know about it. They would like maybe land in some remote pasture somewhere and bring a picnic basket, and that would be a date. And I just kind of thought about that. Well, how cool would that be in a movie to have something around that? So I think the way I started is I just wrote a scene about something like that. And then once I wrote that scene, all the other scenes kind of just went around that, and I made a story out of it. And it turned out to be like a love triangle, and those can be difficult to write, but I think they're possible to write. And that's what I tried to do.
Well, you definitely got that love triangle thing going on in here. Very good job with the writing. I didn't realize that aviation was such a big part of your life. Did you draw on a lot of personal experience, or maybe even more specifically, some kind of a personal story when you were thinking of this screenplay specifically?
In other screenplays I've written, I have done that, but in this one, no, it was new for me. I really didn't do that. It was more just using my imagination, things that I haven't done in my life that maybe I wish I would have, or something. And so I guess the answer to your question would be no, not in this case. Yeah.
Do you, when you're writing characters, and especially for this one, do you have it like an actor or maybe a person in mind that you knew or something when you're trying to write character dialogue, and are you visualizing a specific person? Are you keeping it general enough to where you're kind of leaving that up to whoever produces the film?
For sure. Well, I do have, when I'm writing it, I certainly have people in mind that I'm modeling. They could be personal acquaintances. They could be someone actor on TV. Like, for example, and when I wrote Blame It on the Moon, the banker on Beverly Hillbillies, Mr. Drysdale. I mean, he was just, nobody probably knows who he is, but he was one of my characters, and it really helped me write. And I know that other writers try to model their characters over people they know or people they know of, and I do certainly do that. Yeah.
What's the future of this particular screenplay? Are you shopping it? Are you going into development? Is it one of those things where you wrote it so that you could sell it, or did you write it so that you could make it?
I wrote it so I could sell it. I think my dream, like all other writers, is, well, most writers, is you just want to see your characters on a screen. And I'm kind of a phase where I've written 3 screenplays, and North to the Future is my most recent, and that's pretty much done. And I'm kind of turning into what I think you call the business side of it. And that's more difficult, despite the fact that I spent 40 years in business before I retired and started writing a lot. That part is becoming more challenging for me. Maybe perhaps because I live in the Minneapolis area, not the Los Angeles area, but I'm kind of going to that business mode, which you have to do if you want to see your characters on a screen. So to that end, I thank you for your part in helping people get closer to that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the writing is really, really good, very well put together. I know that we kind of talked a little bit about, the need, sometimes you feel like you need to update something after it's been sitting for a while. But the judges are just very, very impressed, which is how you put this whole thing together. And I don't want to say it's formulaic, but it definitely has an arc that you can easily see on screen, and just a great finish. And it's very, for someone who hasn't been writing. You said you were in business for a long time, and now doing this, it looks like you've been writing for a really, really long time. So good
Well,
job putting this together.
yeah, when I was in college, my counselor asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I told her I want to be a writer.
Hmm.
And I think I panicked when I was in my late 20s. All my friends are buying new cars and buying new houses, and I got into sales like my dad did. And but I've always wanted to write, and I always did really well in composition when I went to college, and that was my major, was creative writing. So
Hmm.
um, it's just I have the time to do that now too. And you can't change life, you can't go back and change anything. But I'm just happy I'm writing right now, and I wish I would have been for a long time, but. Uh, I'm very happy that I'm finally getting around to doing that, and writing screenplays as well. So I never thought I would write that type of a thing. Um, kind of a long story. I got involved with a friend of mine who had a TV show,
Hmm.
and this is maybe 15 years ago or so, and we talk about like funny things he could do on his TV show, and he liked it, so he starts putting it on, and I got to be an actor on his TV show, and then he later asked me to do a screenplay with him, and he'd already produced two of them. And so I said yes, and that's kind of how I got my start, probably like 15 years ago. And
Hmm.
it's been a great experience.
Okay. All right. Well, what's going on in the future? That's a great story about the past, but what's your
Oh,
next step?
well, my next step is again the business side of it.
Hmm.
You read all sorts of books on query letters and Zoom meetings and pitch sessions, and I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of work on how to do that. And so I think my next step needs to focus on the business side of it and get my scripts in the right hands of people who can do something, who like it.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to be my immediate future. But I never want to stop writing either. So right now I'm really trying to come up with something for my next screenplay. I'm also doing that. So because I really want to write one.
All right. Good stuff. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time today. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Well, again, I just want to thank you for your part in helping people get closer to their dreams, getting scripts in the right people's hands that can make things happen. And
Mhm.
without people like you, those things just wouldn't be possible. So for that, I thank you, and I thank all your writers and all the people on your staff.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. And this event is going to be packed. I mean, it is already close to a sellout. We're still, full 3 weeks away. So this will be a great place to do some networking, great place to meet people. And I'm glad we could create a live forum for people to still do that. COVID was tough. We switched to drive-in theaters and things like that. And
Yeah.
of course, the networking, was a little bit different during those lockdown times. But man, we're back, and Austin Comedy Film Festival is as large as it's been in our history coming up next month. So um, it'll be a good opportunity for people to really meet and hopefully make some things in the future.
Well, I hope I have
So,
a chance to meet you sometime, Michael. I'll certainly look into that and hopefully make some plans to do that in the very near future.
all right, John. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Have a good
Michael.
one.
You too.